Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon. And for that, I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, global strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, good to have you back on.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Well, stocks on Wall Street were down for a second straight session overnight. It's apparently increasingly doubtful that there'll be a deal on new stimulus by election day. What's the story in the global markets?
Yes, as you said, market does not like uncertainty. And we see huge uncertainty continues until the election finishes in U.S. U.S. market, Wall Street, fell for the second day on Wednesday as the hopes of stimulus before the election kind of faded. The Treasury Secretary Mnuchin declared that getting some kind of deal approved before the election would be very difficult. Clearly, this is causing concerns for the overall equity market trend. On top of this, if you look at the COVID-19 cases, in terms of creating the vaccine by sometime within this year, the possibility of that has gone down significantly. And that also we are seeing quite a bit of a jump in terms of the new patient in terms of COVID-19. And that is resulting into a concern that economic recovery of global scale might not be happening as we hope for. So all that is putting huge pressure for the overall equity market trend. And if you look at the U.S. futures market, it is down somewhere between 0.5% to 1%, depending on the indices. And also European market is also falling right now. So the uncertainty should remain in the future, and that the current volatility should probably linger on until the election is finished.
And it seems like much the same story here in Seoul. The KOSPI down today, the KOSDAQ by quite a bit. There's the added factor of COVID-19 cases being back over 100 today. Tell us what happened in the Korean market.
Yes, if you look at the Korea's overall market, the KOSPI is down by about 0.8%, and also KOSDAQ is down quite significantly by 2%. Despite the valuations look quite attractive and that economic growth rate seems to be reasonably better than global numbers, if you look at the overall volatilities, it's continued to be happening for Korea as the uncertainty in terms of the capital gains tax remains to be high, and that the requirement goes down to 300 million won. That will cause some of the concern of panic selling by the retail investors. If you look at the base rate, BOK have decided to keep the rate at 0.5%, and that should provide ample liquidity. And if you look at the M2 growth rate, it is showing about two-digit growth numbers. So liquidity is ample, but the short-term uncertainties of the economic numbers as well as the COVID-19 cases and the political uncertainty all results into the volatility for Korea as well. We think that until U.S. election is finished, KOSPI should remain to be somewhere volatile, anywhere between 2,350 to 2,400 range.
And now elsewhere, we see oil prices have been up for a couple of trading days now. It seems the members of OPEC are complying with the production cuts they agreed to. Where do you see oil going?
Yes, in terms of the oil price, if you look at the supply and demand side, both is negatively affecting the oil price in general. So we do think that the oil price is not going to go up any significant amount in the future. But nevertheless, at a $40 per barrel level, we think that oil price should be fairly stable. If you look at the stocks of crude oil in the United States, it decreased by 5.42 million barrels in the week ended October 9th of 2020, following 0.95 million gain in the previous week. And this number is clearly much bigger drop than the market expectation of 3.39 million drop. So all in all, we think that the demand and supply side is not positively affecting, but as you said, the overall decline in terms of the production is happening, and also in terms of demand-wise, economic growth rate remains to be reasonably recovering in a similar pace as market expected. So we think that oil prices should be in a range bound. We think that it should be somewhere in between $35 to $45 range. We don't think that it's going to go up any higher than that, nor it go down any below than $35. So we should watch carefully in terms of what happens to the liquidity condition in the global market, as well as dollar index trend. We think the dollar index should remain at where it is, and also the price of oil should remain where it is.
Got it. All right, we'll leave it there for today. Mr. Yu, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you very much.